These are deeply conservative reforms, Mr. Deputy Speaker, championed by none other than Mrs. Thatcher, starting in 1965, and she continued to do so throughout opposition and also in her premiership. And I would just gently say to anyone listening, or the opposition of whatever party, they mustn't fall into the trap of making this into a political football. They must engage with the seriousness and complexity of these reforms, in part because, as we've heard, they actually did very little to advance these very significant reforms during their own time in office, and I suspect that they backed away from it because of the very significant legal challenges that they would have faced, as we ourselves will face, no doubt. Just pretending they don't exist is not a serious position. But I would say to the Minister and to the Secretary of State, who are aware of my comments, we must not buckle and we must continue to take this forward. So it is great to see the package of amendments laid by the government, particularly on new clause 42, which is the ban on leasehold houses. I would like the Minister to think carefully about how he will address the inevitable imbalance and creation of a two-tier system where some people will have the freehold of their houses, but some will not. And an additional imbalance also between flats in our urban areas and in our leasehold, new freehold houses, a point very well made by James Vitale in a policy exchange report. And I am slightly worried about the omission of the retirement properties from this, so perhaps the Minister could return to that. In committee, I spoke about the need to really, truly move towards a common hold system. I think the opposition's new clause 11 is something of that nature, and I very much hope that as the bill goes through, completing its stages, that the government, maybe here or in the other place, can look at that suggestion, because I think we do need to set out the future legislative scaffolding for our fifth term in office, to build on all the work that we've done, so we can finally get rid of this leasehold system. Other members have actually mentioned a lot of the points I've made about the shared services. I know that my honourable friend from Westminster North has raised that. That was also one of my concerns, and my honourable friend from Harbour has done a fantastic job talking about the lack of adoption by local authorities, which new clauses 7, 1 and 2, I know the opposition clauses again. This problem isn't going to go away. It's also a blight on many homeowners in Redditch, and it also goes to the heart of our planning system, and we really do need to look at that. We cannot pretend that that's going to solve itself. I want to thank the Minister for writing to me about one of my concerns about litigation costs. That was I think new clause 3 looks at that. He's reassured me that what's in this bill will go the distance to ensuring that leaseholders are not subject to unjust litigation costs from their landlord. And that is one of the cases highlighted by Liam Spender and many others. Hugely complex issues, but we must tackle them. I want to see ground rent being reduced to a peppercorn. It is pure extortion. It is a feudal relic from medieval times when people were serfs and worked the land. We should not have this in 2024 in any year at all. I refuse to believe that there is not a way through the wit of man and the considerable intelligence of the ministers on the front bench to solve the issue where there may be some financial assets that are held in pension funds. I just don't buy this incredibly con artist, this Mr. Steve Wybrow and his outfit, who's pretending to be a pensioner and pretending that somehow we are robbing pensioners. I would urge anybody with an interest in this debate to look at the genuine pensioners who are fighting for the rights to have pure enjoyment of their own properties, which they richly deserve after a lifetime of working. Forfeiture, I will make my final remarks on forfeiture. It must go. Forfeiture of a long lease cannot be right. It cannot be right that a freeholder can hold this nuclear bomb over somebody like Dennis Jackson, a pensioner of Plantation Wharf. He disputed a £6,000 service charge. That led to £80,000 legal bill. He had his £800,000 flat forfeited in a 10-minute hearing at Wandsworth Court. I want to thank all the work that Lease have done to help him. That just it simply cannot be right. We must address this. And I want to see us now finally finishing the job that Mrs. Thatcher started when she was opposition housing spokesman in 1965. We must finish that job, and I thank the Minister for all the work that he's done so far.